Nazdare. Halo. Halo. Vítám vás tady. Určitě si říkáte, proč je tady ten název tohohle z toho streamu takový agresivní. Protože se budeme společně dívat na jedno naprosto úžasné video, které se nevztahuje pouze na Prahu, ale vztahuje se i na všechny města v České republice. Protože uvidíte sami. Chápeme? Já jsem se teď uvědomil, že se musím zajít pro pro... Tak jo. Já se budu muset protože jsem se zapomněl nachystat nějaké věci a nebych si k tomu vzal ani nějaké jídlo, protože bych chtěl být správný reakční youtuber, že budu u toho videa jíst. Takže mi dejte vteřinku. Vy jste mě celou dobu opravdu neslyšeli? Já se na to musím kurva dávat pozor. A nic, takže ještě jednou. Vítám vás, omlouvám se za menší zdržení, ale ten stream se sere už od začátku. A chtěl bych udělat jednu věc, pustit si jedno video, které mě už láká strašně dlouho, na to si ho pustit. Protože vyskočilo mi 11 dní zpátky a bylo to o Praze a to, že ona je parodií na Evropu. Takže bychom se na to mohli společně podívat. Video má 20 minut, takže tím strávíme tak hodinku necelou a pak budeme ještě do půlnoci hrát Hollow Body. Takže se hodně těšte a já se těším. Odkaz najdete v popisu na to video.
We're looking at this irreplaceable, unique, one-of-a-kind medieval city core dating back to the 9th century AD. City leadership had asked themselves a crucial question. Where do I put my SUV?
Turns out, invaluable historical heritage sites are the perfect places to store your car. The romantic, millennium-old winding streets offer an exciting variety of parking spaces. The centuries-old Baroque squares, formerly home to bustling markets and high medieval culture, are now proud displays of contemporary Prague culture. The same can be said about the Baroque
Crucial question. Where do I put my SUV? City leadership had asked them. We're looking at this irreplaceable, unique, one-of-a-kind medieval city core dating back to the 9th century AD. City leadership had asked themselves a crucial question. Where do I put my SUV?
Přesně. Kde si dáme svoje obrovské auto? Budeme ho řídit v Praze? Ještě k tomu tam budeme přidávat ty vole cyklopruhy? Ty vole, já jsem tak rád, že ta Ostrava. Já jsem tak rád za to, že jsem kurva Ostravák, ty vole. Fakt jsem za to kurva rád.
Turns out, invaluable historical heritage sites are the perfect places to store your car. The romantic, millennium-old winding streets offer an exciting variety of parking spaces. The centuries-old Baroque squares, formerly home to bustling markets and high medieval culture, are now proud displays of contemporary Prague culture. The same can be said about the Baroque side streets, no less ornate than the squares, offering a window into the soul of 21st century Prague. It has been said that Prague is an
A další všude jsou prostě cannabis shopy.
utterly dysfunctional city.
A oni jsou v Ostravě, jako to je zase z druhé strany. Že oni vždycky přijdou na nějakou pičovinu, kterou můžou prostě prodávat. Takže předtím to bylo HC, pak to bylo, teď je to THCX. Zajímá, s čím přijdou dřív, nebo s čím přijdou dál.
Unable to implement any positive changes, with its Kafkaesque institutions slowly collapsing under their own weight. This is a false sentiment. Changes are, in fact, on the way. For example, in terms of traffic policy, the meeting to determine the date of the session on which they decide what cookies to serve on the first 20 rounds of consultations before the preliminary session preceding the initial rounds of talks is
Ale naplánované až na rok 2046. To máme ještě čas.
already scheduled for the year 2046. In the meantime, Prague's castle remains a symbol of the values and competence of its leadership. But of course, Prague is more than just a castle utilized as a parking lot.
On the other side of the Vltava River, we see Old Town, and behind it is New Town, named so due to it having been built in the 14th century. The two sites are linked by the famous Charles Bridge, a masterpiece of Baroque engineering and architecture built in 1402. Now, Prague's leadership had asked themselves, how could it best utilize a medieval 6 centuries old bridge in the 21st century? Well, it turns out 6 centuries old UNESCO-protected medieval bridges make for great covered parking lots.
To je to nejdražší parkoviště v téhle republice, kdo je možná v Evropě, tyjo.
We're almost in Old Town. We just need to cross under this exquisite Baroque bridge tower overlooking the Baroque facades of Old Town, right in front of the Baroque pedestrian intersection.
A mě fascinuje, když se člověk podívá na ty tramvaje v Praze, proč mají v Praze tak staré tramvaje? Se podívám na třeba MHD v Ostravě, tak to je úplně na rovinu jako pardon, ale je to úplně na jiné úrovni, to MHDčko. Je sice pravda, že Praha je mnohonásobně větší než Ostrava, ale když řekl, že to hlavní město, tak bych čekal nějakou reprezentaci. Ale zase je pravda, že ty naše ježiboby taky nejsou tak kdo ví, jak úžasně hezké.
The road we're crossing right now is the famous Smetana embankment. The presence of cars on this road is a recurring point of conflict between people and the city leadership. Proponents of traffic calming had argued that it's likely not a good idea to let a dozen people in cars hold up hundreds of pedestrians and tram passengers at a time. The city leadership used to respond to that argument that this state of affairs is necessary as those dozen drivers do not have a convenient alternative route. In order to solve this issue, a massive highway tunnel complex was built under the castle, costing $2.7 billion in today's money, at long last providing a quick, convenient alternative to the embankment. Thus, proponents of traffic calming were able to once again raise the issue of restricting car traffic on the embankment in favor of public transit and pedestrians.
Nice, konečně něco dělají.
City Hall was quick to issue a response to this renewed request, later amending it with an additional statement. It seems that limiting car traffic on Prague's Smetana embankment will remain a task for future generations. We penetrate in...
Ach jo. Tak nějak to vypadá teďkom, no tyhle, teď budou volby, to teď bude prdel. Já se tady nebudu politicky vyjadřovat, volte si koho chcete.
To Old Town, marveling at the astounding architecture surrounding us, the beautiful facades, St. Clement's Cathedral, the Thymasar Salon next to St. Clement's Cathedral, with a tasteful animatronic clown demon above it waving a flag that reads "I love relax" with outdoor Christmas lights attached for better visibility. However, as we were visiting during the off-season, unfortunately we were unable to get the full cultural experience this street offers.
This street is usually a great place to immerse yourself in Prague culture. We are just at the foot of St.
Jaké kultuře? Perníkové kultuře?
Clement's Cathedral, and behind me in the corner there's a
Drogové kultuře, tak maximálně tady bude. Tam trdelník, ne?
promotional rickshaw advertising the Thymasar Salon by St. Clement's Cathedral. In this pedestrian zone, there is usually a Dodge Ram American pickup truck parked illegally on most days of the year, though it doesn't seem to be here on this very day.
Walking down these historical streets,
Jak to má typek jako zmapované všechno, že? I fotky, to tak, takový druhý ten Janek Rubeš, akorát, že zahraniční.
we are enamored by the vibrant, authentic culture of Old Town. Full of people, all of them locals, in their respective home countries. Stores line the streets, offering basic necessities for daily life like absinthe and foreign currency.
But this cultural epicenter of the Czech Republic is not without its problems. Short-term rentals on an industrial scale are increasingly taking over the local housing market.
But what are the locals' views on the spread of Airbnb, and what do they think of the rumors of Eastern oligarchs buying up the local housing stock to operate entire residential blocks as short-term rentals?
These are the questions we wanted to pose to Old Town's.
Jo. To je tak, jak když někdo má hromadu peněz, nakoupí si hromadu bytu a potom je pronajímá za trojnásobek ceny. To už je i tady u nás pěkně. To je šílené v některých částech Ostravy. Zkuste si najít fajný byt, 2+1, 3+1 v Ostravě v Porubě. Hodně štěstí. Najdete, ale za 23 000, za 25 000. A někdy nejsou ani po rekonstrukci.
Fortunately, nobody on our staff spoke Russian or Chinese.
We gradually leave the charm of Old Town behind us as we enter New Town. We eventually surface at Venceslas Square, the main public space of the Czech Republic.
The square is currently under reconstruction. Before the works, the square functioned as the nation's main ceremonial parking lot. And over there we see the statue of
Ceremoniální parkoviště. To by taky mohl ukázat hromadu ceremoniálních parkovišť, ty vole, tady v Ostravě.
Saint Wenceslas, scanning the square with a stern look, meant to symbolize the difficult, often futile search for a free parking spot in Prague when trying to park your third car in the city center.
The reconstruction of
Kdo by si nechtěl pod sochou, ty vole? Pičo, já se nespomenu, co to je za sochu. Ty vole. No prostě si pod sochou zaparkují auto, aby měli pěkný výhled, víš co, aby je tam kryla armáda.
Wenceslas Square will bring back the tram line that used to extend all the way to the bottom of the square, eliminated by Soviet leadership in 1980. Following the
Vidíš to, dívej se na tu tramvaj. To je ta stejná tramvaj, která tam jela předtím. Proč? Ano, u nás jezdí taky v Ostravě staré tramvaje, ale ty jezdí jenom, když čarodějnice prostě nedokáže existovat. Ale co? Proč? Jak?
the reconstruction, trams will return to the
Ty vole, nevěřím, to je jiná tramvaj. Pane bože. Poprvé, co vidím počkat, nebo je to spíš, to vypadá jako nějaká simulace, že?
upper half of the square, with plans to restore tracks on the lower half having been successfully blocked by Prague's conservative leadership. Beyond the statue of Saint Wenceslas stands the Czech National Museum. In order to help highlight this important building, a 6 to 8 lane urban freeway was built around it.
Ty vole. Ty vole. Kolem Národního muzea ty vole postavit 6 až 8 proudovou dálnici, ty vole.
This is the north-south Prague urban freeway, built by the Soviets to make invasions easier in case locals start wanting things like freedom of speech or democracy. Now, there have been multiple attempts to calm traffic on this freeway by
Tak, pitičko jsem se zašel ještě. Jdeš se dívat se mnou, Zlatičko? Jdeš se dívat se mnou? Jo. Žádán, prosím. Tak. Dobrá, pokračujeme.
reducing the number of lanes. Opponents of traffic calming, however, argue that reducing the number of lanes on this highway built by the Czechoslovakian Communist Party would be an instance of communism.
A stateless, classless road with no currency.
This road has been designed to numerous protests by Last Generation Prague, advocating for a citywide 30 km/h speed limit. Their actions
PG, jo? Je to 13 nebo ne? Je to jenom PG nebo je to PG-13?
would see one of the 6 to 8 lanes closed from traffic during rush hour, leading to a massive traffic jam affecting thousands of average working people.
Although their protests are a rare occurrence, we seem to be in luck.
And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we seem to be in luck. There does seem to be a protest by Last Generation Prague just over there. We were this lucky to have called it just at this time, so we are going to go check it out.
We rush to the scene, hoping to
Tak on to úplně vážně bere, ne? Tyjo, to je takové joke video, tyjo, spíš ale pravdivé.
catch these selfish, narcissistic scum red-handed. These vile eco-fascists, selfishly holding up thousands of regular, working people in traffic jams during rush hour.
So we've been looking for the last generation protesters right here, but we can't seem to find them, even though the highway is completely congested. So we believe that these green communists have changed tactics in the meantime, opting to show up for their protest in their car instead of on foot. Truly a vile display of selfishness from these radical activists.
Jo, hovadati aktivisti. Hej, slušným, poctivě pracujícím lidem kurvit den. Šodán, co tam děláš? Ty jsi zase něco rozlila? Já tě zabiju. Máš štěstí, Šeran. Máš štěstí, holka.
Recovering from the experience, we decide to calm our nerves with culture. Lucky for us, just on the other side of the urban freeway stands the Czech National Museum's new building.
Would you like to visit the Czech National Museum just over there? This way.
Ale, ukaž cestu. Tunel, no.
This passageway leads not just to the Czech National Museum, but also to the Czech National Opera. Julius Caesar in Egypt, I hear, is the latest opera piece that can be viewed there. And there we can already see the yellow columns. Those are the Czech National Opera. Behind it is the Czech National Museum's new building. So just through this underpass, careful, the puddles of feces all around. That column is used as a public toilet, as we can see.
Jo, tak to je každý rok takovýhle pod tím. Tam nechceš chodit v noci v takovýchhle uličkách.
And it smells like that
Sám
too.
ještě.
Just so we can, reconnect our core human primal nature before witnessing the most important cultural relics of the Czech Republic and/or an opera piece just over there. Here we can see the opera visitors have left a can of Pilsner Urquell on the sidewalk. They must have been in a hurry. Always be on time when going to an opera, as it's considered to be very bad manners to be late.
Taky co jiného v Praze, 11.
And you might even have to throw away your beer can on the way.
Dorazil se na místo, brácho, pecka.
Once you're done enjoying the greatest cultural relics and artifacts of the Czech Republic, you can continue your cultural experience here on the outside, looking at this SUV parked in the forbidden zone. Over there is a smart car advertising a nightclub, which has been left here for quite some time.
Ty vole, pěkně. No tam už fakt bude dlouho stát. Oni tam můžou odtáhnout, myslím, ne? Nebo jak, já nevím, tam bylo, to jsem někde viděl, že tam byl nějaký problém s autem zaparkovaným někde na náměstí a že ono tam bylo tak dlouho, ale ono mělo botičku, myslím dokonce, ale nikdo ho neodtáhnul. Policajti ho nemohli odtáhnout, z nějakého důvodu. Nevím.
As we can see, there are stickers on the window. On the other side there are tags, and there is dust collecting all over the place. And just over there is the rent a Hummer, a promotional Hummer, which has been left there for the past 2 years to advertise a rental service locally.
Ty vole, 2 roky tam prostě stojí to SUVčko jako reklama, chápete to? A ono tam to auto kurva furt tam je.
We head out towards the center of Newtown in search of greener pastures.
For the past few decades, the number of cars in Prague has been increasing constantly, which is exacerbated by the fact that ever since 2020 or so, it is illegal to produce cars smaller than a Wehrmacht Panzer IV. Additionally, owning a car seems to get a distinct side effect of having to put it somewhere while not using it. Therefore, Prague's leadership has...
Jak se říká, čím větší auto, tím menší pero. Takže v Praze asi víme, jaká je epidemie, že?
forced to come up with innovative solutions to store the ever-increasing number of motor vehicles within its limits. Today, we would like to examine some of these solutions in person.
We are in Prague's 2nd district on EP Pavlova Square, where the Prague 2nd District City Hall had come up with an ingenious urban planning solution to be studied by urban planners across the globe.
The car-centric pedestrian zone.
But this isn't the only instance of Prague's urban planning brilliance by far.
We're standing on Horní Street in Prague's 4th district, where in 2022 the local city hall had turned most of the sidewalk into a parking lot, thereby gaining 15 additional parking spaces, arguing that locals wanted more parking spaces.
The locals had filed a lawsuit against the 4th District City Hall looking to take back their sidewalk from cars.
Takhle tak vypadá prakticky všechno v naší republice. Opravy stylu, vypadá to, jak kdyby vzali lepici pasku a přelepili to.
Their lawsuit was successful, with the court ordering City Hall to eliminate the parking spaces. But this was not the end of the story.
City Hall has held firm in opposition to the locals' opposition to adding more parking spaces, arguing that the locals needed more parking spaces. They consequently tried to reintroduce sidewalk parking in defiance of the court's decision.
Locals sued City Hall again, with the court ordering City Hall for the second time to remove parking spaces from the sidewalk. It remains to be seen what City Hall will do next.
Will Prague 4 City Hall be able to enact the people's will, even against the people's will? Only time will tell.
But other Prague districts have been far more creative in their quest for the creation of more urban parking lots in the year 2025.
No, budou mít více kde parkovat, pozor.
We are now in the 15th district of Prague on Sańkarská Street.
Over here we can see a number of ingenious solutions enacted by the local city hall to increase the number of parking spaces. So as a first step, the sidewalks on both sides were eliminated and turned into parking spaces. And just to the left of me, which is your right...
Dobře, a lidi mají teda chodit kde? Lidi mají chodit kde, když auta parkují na chodníku? Ale chodit po těch autech? Po cestě? Jak? Kdo to zase vymyslel, takovou pičovinu?
Right, there is a children's playground and some trees. The children's playground will be eliminated.
To je stejné jako ty cyklopruhy posrané. Postavené ty vole tak, že oni evidentně chcou, aby lidi přejížděli ty cyklisty.
And these trees will be cut down in order to create even more parking spaces to incentivize an even greater use of automobiles. By the elimination of the children's playground and the cutting down of the trees, the district will gain 23 new parking spaces.
Locals have created a petition against the measure already passed by City Hall. It remains to be seen if Prague 15 will be more successful than Prague 4 in enacting the people's will against the people's will. But turning sidewalks and children's...
No, my máme tady taky takovýhle problém teďkom. Kousek od mojeho baráku se bude stavět pravděpodobně tramvaj, která pojede ze spodu okolo vlastně baráku přes náměstí, já to říkám, jako, není to náměstí, ale je to takové prostě obchodní centrum malé tady, potom nahoru a nahoru k velkému globusu. A hodně lidí na to teďkom nadává a jsou tady, už mi přišly 2 petice, ve kterých, že to tady nechcou. Mně je to jedno, já to tady klidně budu mít. Ale je pravda, že baraky, které budou hned vedle toho po cestě rodina, tak ty asi ztratí na ceně, no.
Playgrounds into parking lots are not the only measures Prague has in store for us. A further pillar of Prague's urban planning policy is the complete lack of traffic rule enforcement.
The threat of actually enforcing the rules of the road has naturally made a lot of middle-aged men in large, expensive cars extremely upset. They worry that if the rules of the road suddenly applied to them as well, then lively streets such as this one would turn into urban hellscapes, like the ones in Amsterdam or Vienna.
However, some
Není to takhle, jak to teď vidíme, není to hezčí? Není to mnohem hezčí, než když tam jsou ty odporné, hnusné auta?
locals continue to entertain notions such as that drivers should abide by the rules of the road, further polarizing society by putting themselves in opposition to those who want to ignore them. In order to resolve this conflict, a compromise was struck by Prague City Hall. On one hand, drivers can break any traffic rule with impunity. On the other hand, pedestrians, cyclists and public transit users may shut up. Still, many of Prague's drivers continue to complain that they are, in fact, being oppressed. Drivers in Prague are indeed so oppressed that illegal drag races in the city center can only be held at night, whereby contestants block the main urban freeway leading into the center. The police haven't yet mustered the courage to intervene, preferring to watch from a safe distance.
Parking, traffic calming and pedestrian safety aren't the only hot button issues in Prague, however. A further tumultuous point of contention is the question of urban cycling. Up until recently, plotting a safe bicycle route through Prague was a task impossible for average people. However, technology has now made this possible, as long as one can afford processing time on the IBM mainframe. Prague urban planning works much like alchemy, in that if you create something good, another good thing of equal value must be taken away. So here in front of Prague's second largest railway station, the city had created a pedestrian zone using these bollards, which is only occasionally violated by drivers. And so in exchange, in the next street over there, a bike lane was taken away to make more space for cars.
Ty bláho, mi se chce strašně skurveně spát, hej.
Yet another defeat for Stalinism in Prague, the city of progress. Of course, when Joseph Stalin first began building safe, separated
Nevím, jak na to bylo. To bylo Papers, Please.
bike paths in 1924, nobody could have suspected that those are, in fact, precursors to a totalitarian empire. Thankfully, Prague's leadership is always on edge, determined to stop such evils from ever setting foot within city limits. It's time for us to leave, so we head to Prague's central station. Scheduled to be
Ježišmarja, na hlavní nádraží, no tak to bude v hajzlu.
reconstructed sometime within the next 5 to 50 years. To that end, a large part of the currently indoors passenger hall is to be demolished to give way to a massive, open-air wooden pergola. However, some have questioned the design.
Thankfully,
Proč? To nevypadá tak strašně.
the concept of weather as such does not exist in Prague, with every single day of the year being a very pleasant 20 degrees Celsius, slightly sunny and no wind.
To není pravda, kámo, tak to vůbec není pravda. Máme tady 30-40 stupňů a v zimě chčietu, v zimě jsou prostě zima. To s tím fakt nesouhlasím. Zkus si tady pobít jeden rok. My nejsme Anglie, že tam furt chčí a je tam 20 stupňů. Jdeš dobře zaparkovaný tady ten chlapec. Zajímavé, co by chtěli udělat, kdyby tady tyhle ty auta chtěli vyjet. Ty vole. Jsou šílené ty uličky v té Praze, jak tam prostě, když se sekneš v jedné uličce, tak si schopný tam stát třeba i 30 minut.
I think the most frustrating thing about Prague, for me personally, is that everything is given for a great city, for an absolutely great city. The buildings are beautiful, the landmarks are there, it has plenty of history going back hundreds of years. And yet...
Ano, stále jsou ty, no. Praha je stále pěkné historické město, jako ještě aby ne, že? Když se podíváš třeba na tu siluetu prostě těch věží, vypadá to krásně, to určitě. Ale ty auta to prostě kurví.
Yet, when you look around...
Jenom kvůli toho, že jsi nějaký bohatý chár, ty vole, s malým perem musel koupit velké SUVčko, aby se ho zvětšil.
On the streets, the city itself does not seem to acknowledge the fact that only about a quarter of its residents drive a car on a day-to-day basis. If you look at the average Prague streetscape, you would think that 90% of citizens drive a car. That is absolutely not the case.
Ty vole, kdyby 90% všech lidí z Prahy řídilo auto, tak tam není nic jiného než auta v tom městě.
I think Prague should take more steps to make its public spaces sort of more fair. But of course, the reason why Prague does not look like Vienna or Amsterdam has its own political reasons, of course. The city leadership, where conservatives are in the majority, have been blocking every single initiative to make the city more...
Jo, protože si koupil velké auto. Ty pičo, já budu mlčet, protože zase budu něčeho litovat, že řeknu.
Pedestrian friendly, cycling
Zmrdí hnusný, ty vole. Já nebydlím v Praze, i tak mě to kurva sere, hej.
friendly, or even to...
Jenom kvůli toho, že oni jsou kaři, koupí si velké auto, které se sotva vleze na naše silnice, musí stát na 2 parkovacích pruzích, tak prostě kurví zákony.
Just prioritize public transit so that
Nebo návrhy na ty zákony aj.
2 people in cars cannot hold up 200 to 300 in trams or buses. All of these measures that would make Prague a more Western city have been consistently vetoed by the conservative I suppose, majority. If Charles IV came back today and looked at the current sorry state of Prague, Charles IV could not make it to Prague Castle on the royal path. He would get run over. The current urban planning status quo in Prague is fundamentally anti-human, anti-culture, anti-history.
No, když se na to člověk podívá, tak má typek pravdu, ale. Protože to je anti všechno pro auta.
Look at the castle, look at the state of Old Town, and especially New Town. Cars parked everywhere, all the streets are congested, dangerous. Kids cannot be let go on bicycles alone, which is a standard in every single capital Western city. Most of these places are just 3 or 4 bollards away from becoming really quality, human-friendly areas. The city is under conservative leadership. Conservative parties seem to hate walkable, cycling-friendly, pedestrian-friendly urban planning styles. Their ideal world is one where the inner city is just an Airbnb desert. It's just a short-term rental, a wasteland full of tourists, no one else, no locals, and everyone is living outside in the suburbs, in the satellites, in these like tiny, cheap bungalows, and everyone commutes in by car and then leaves in the evening. This has a number of
Bungalov? OK, chtěl bych vidět, jak někdo v Praze postaví bungalov.
Negative effects on society. It atomizes people, it atomizes society, just individuals and families, as Margaret Thatcher would say. And I don't want anyone to take this as me criticizing Prague or criticizing the Czech people. That is not my goal at all. I would like to help improve things because obviously so far nothing has helped in Prague. I believe
Ani nepomůže ještě na dlouhou dobu. S tím, jak dopadnou volby, to možná ještě bude ještě horší.
A better Prague, and I believe, consequently, in a better Czech Republic. And I think one of the roads towards that is sound urban planning policy, which is the exact opposite of what Prague is doing right now. And my hope is that someone waking up finally in City Hall and realizing that this cannot go on any further, things need to change, and that in the end we will see a Prague which is truly a Western city as opposed to something out of a postcard of 1970s Turkmenistan.
Turkmenistán, no tak to je pěkné, tak to je velice pěkné, to něco vypovídá, ty vole. Tak jo, doufám, že máme sice ještě říct, pokud by tady někdo byl, ale já vám tady posílám odkaz na to video, kdybyste se chtěli kouknout. Dejte mu hodně lásky, hodně lajků. A my se postupně z Prahy plné aut přesuneme na hraní hry Holoubody. Já si připojím z deckboard. Tak jo. No a udělám ještě jednu věc. Další samolepky, já chci další samolepky. Tak, OK. Jak jsme na tom se samolepkama? Jo, to jsou tyhle samolepky, jo. Aha, už vím. Tak jo, jdeme se postupně zapnout na Holoubody. Tak, vytahuju ten nejlepší ovladač na světě. A říkejte si každý, kdo chce, co chce, ale to je prostě nejlepší ovladač na světě. Ježiš, já tam potřebuji něco zrobit, že? Ale co ještě udělat, tyva? Já se potřebuji dostat do té místnosti. Jak se tam dostat? Ne. No někde to je monstrum, ale já se tam nedokážu dostat. Proč mi to přijde jako glitch? No je tady. Pojď sem. Zničím tě. Já trefuju. OK, tak ne, tak to mi nevyšlo. Se zvedneš? Hej, holka. Přestaneš dupat? Já se nepřestaneš dupat, no, můžeš se jenom tak nezvednout, ne? Au! Au! Ty vole, ty pak mě hitnul. Hajzl, jeden. Dobře. Načteme hru znovu. Protože to jsem opravdu nechtěl, aby se stalo. Protože pokud já si kurva pamatuju dobře, tak ono by měl být ten klíč tady vedle, tam kde je ten zombík. Jenomže já se tam nemám kurva jak dostat. Oj, nazdar. To, počte, kolik se vás tu naspavnovalo? Vy jste se naspavnovali všichni znovu, jo? To je poprvé, co jsem umřel v téhle hře. Hodí mi to rovnou do menu? Jo. No, ale to vůbec nevím, proč se stalo, že tam jsou všichni teď prostě ty, které se ten už jsem pozabíjel právě. A oni jsou zničení, naspavnovaní znovu všichni. Jak je to možné? Takže když se podívám třeba na věci, co mám u sebe, jo. A i ten klíč. Akorát ten jediný klíč, na který jsem se chtěl dostat, tak ten tu není. Au, píče. No, tak to se budu muset trošku ponaučit tady z tohohle z toho. Kurva, já to dneska nějak necítím, to hraní, kurva. Co bychom si mohli dát jako nějakou jednou hubku, protože dneska to necítím, že dneska dáme tahou body. Co bychom mohli dát? Bych to mohl dát něco na rychlo, že bych stáhnul nějakou onlineovku. Počkat, kolik chcou na to? My mohli dát Star Citizen, jako jo, ale to se bude 100% zase 20 000 let spouštět. Co bychom mohli dát? Jak to profiltrovat? Neznámá podpora ovladače, neříkej. Víte, že jsem dlouho nehrál. Já se podívám, jestli to budu moct. Zkusíme. Zkusíme. Tak. Aha, no jasně. Takže budu muset něco vymazat. No to je, vlastně to není, kde mi to zmizlo všechny ty věci. Já nechci dát lolko. Já nechci dávat lolko. No tak. Ach jo. No dneska to nějak necítím, já se strašně omlouvám, ale aspoň jsme se podívali na to video a s gameplayem to nějak nevidím dneska, protože nějak na mě jde kurva spaní. Nechápu proč, ale jde na mě prostě spaní. Takže já se omlouvám, ten stream bude taky bohužel kratší, ale od zítřka pojedeme normálně, 100% tak, jak máme jet. Jo? Takže pokud jste se dívali, díky, že jste se dívali, pokud se díváte ze záznamu, nezapomeňte dát like, odběr a v chatu najdete odkaz na to video, stejně jako v popisku. Takže díky, že jste se dívali a mějte se zatím. Čau.